couple of people have requested some info on how am I doing this randomization and expressed some interest in getting it to work for themselves or just learning more about how it's done. So I thought I would make a quick video giving the kind of the 2-minute version and then maybe the 10-minute version as well, how to get this to work. So first thing to say is that, as you can see, actually it doesn't say here, it says RandomScape Classic, but I'm running a server myself using OpenRSC. So I'm going to give a big shout out to the great work of the guys, the OpenRSC developers community for putting this together. You can take a look at this site. So they have this rsc.vet site where there are some servers they run, including the popular RSC Preservation, which is probably the most active kind of vanilla server right now. But also, they have a GitHub repository where you can go to this core framework. I should zoom in a little. This is what you should use to get your server up and running. So step 1 is come to OpenRSC on GitHub, scroll down. Thankfully there's a really good README that explains how to play. So if you go to this Windows Getting Started guide, that will explain what you need to do to download these files and get yourself going. There's also a hosting your own server page, which will help you get things up and running, even if you're just going to run it on localhost for now. So I don't need to repeat that stuff. There are already good guides for that here, so check that out. Get your OpenRSC server up and running. And if you've done that, then you will have... Hello? Okay. You'll end up with some files like this, right? So this is core framework developed. This is the name of the code base that we downloaded from GitHub, right? So the key thing that makes this possible is in here there are some files that define the NPC spawn locations. If you go server conf server defs looks. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here. The one that's important for us is npclogs.json. So to give you the 2-minute version, if you get OpenRSC up and running, all of the spawn locations are in a JSON file. So hearing that, and I got to give a shout out to Beast Fable at this point because I heard about this on his podcast, and in fact he's worked on this as well and done his own randomizer. Hearing this was enough for me to go, oh, I know how to do this, and jump on it and create the randomizer. So your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to switch around the IDs for the NPCs in this file. We'll take a look at that. So this is how I approached it. In fact, let's take a look in the npclogs.json file. So if you're not familiar with JSON, it doesn't really matter, but there is something in here called npclogs, which is an array or a list of things. Each one is an NPC location, and each thing has an ID, which tells you which NPC it is. It has a start, X and Y, which is where it spawns or respawns, and then it has a min and a max X and Y, which is its wander area, the area that it can wander around in. This ID points to somewhere else in the files. There's an npc defs JSON, which has got like ID 0 is a unicorn, and so on, right? So this will tell you, if you're interested, which ID goes with which. So it's important to remember that each item in here, each object, is a spawn location, right? So if the same monster spawns in multiple locations, the ID, for example 12, ID 12, whatever that is, that has at least 2 spawns, as we can see. So all we really need to do is move these IDs around between these different spawn locations, right? that's the problem you have to solve if you want to randomize things. The way that I chose to approach that was by writing a Python script, because that's part of my existing skill set. This isn't necessarily the best way to do it, but it's a way that worked for me. So Python has this JSON library in the standard library which you can import. I also used random library to help me randomize things. I took the approach of I copied the NPC logs file somewhere safe separately to have a copy of the original one. Although you can re-download it from GitHub, no problem. And I also put the output file location to be somewhere else, and then I would manually copy this in to the folder for the game. But you can output straight to the game file if you like in the server conf defs logs directory. So my approach was pretty much use JSON library to kind of turn the JSON object into a Python object, which I think gave me like a list of dictionaries in Python terms. I soon realized that there are some NPCs that you don't want to randomize, so I've listed all the Tutorial Island NPC IDs here. Then we are getting a list of I'm doing a dictionary comprehension to get, this is just the way that it occurred to me to do it, right? So we're getting a unique, like a set of all the individual IDs that show up in the original set. Then we're using the random sample function to essentially, like, if we imagine that we've got each of those IDs written on a ball in a bag, and we're going to pick them out one by one and put them into another list, right, in a random order. That's pretty much it. So you use this random sample thing to say, like, I've got a bag of these things and I want to pick out this many things at random. If we pick them all out at random, we simply shuffle the order of those things, right? That makes sense? So it's just using random sample as a convenient way to just shuffle things to get a second list, which is a shuffled version of the first one. So I have, these are the IDs, here's the IDs in a different order, and I simply did a mapping between the two. So I kind of joined the lists back together, right? So the first list goes maybe 0, 1, 2, and so on. The second list will go, I don't know, 13, 144, so on. When you join those together, you get a random mapping of one ID to another. And then we're simply going through and editing our original JSON data object. So the Python dictionaries that we have, we're going through and we're replacing the ID of each one with the randomly mapped ID, and then outputting it to the file. And that's it. That's pretty much it. That was my approach. It's simple, and it means that, like, all of one NPC will be replaced with another NPC. Like, all the men will become goblins, for example. When you've done that, you just need to start the server as normal. So, for example, if you let me go back to the game files, core framework develop. So the way that you start your server, if you look through the instructions, is, I guess, depending on your operating system, you have like a batch file in this case for Windows, start windows.cmd. If you run this, you will get something that looks like this, and you should choose option 1 the first time. So you've just randomized your JSON. You choose option 1, that will kind of cook it into the game, and it will also load up your client, and then you will be able to log in and play your game, pretty much. On subsequent startups, when you've already kind of cooked things into the game, you can simply start the game with option 2, and you'll be good to go. So that's pretty much it for the method of how to do it. At least that is how I have achieved it to record the videos so far. I'm not necessarily saying this is the best way to achieve this. I think I threw this together in like 5 minutes, like yeah, let's get it working. because I was excited about just starting to play. And this runs like as fast as you can snap your fingers, right? So it's not really a problem if I didn't optimize it. It works, and happy days. That's pretty much it. So I think with this information, obviously you have to do it my way. You have to have Python installed. You have to know how to run a Python script, and so on. But pretty much, if you were to take this code, replace your paths, place any other IDs that you don't want to touch in here, you can rename this as like, don't touch these IDs or whatever, then this kind of approach definitely works. I've been thinking about how would I want to, how best can I share this with other people? So obviously making a video, like an instructional video like this, helps. This will allow maybe 1 or 2 people who watch to be able to get it up and running for themselves. I was thinking like other things within my kind of skill set is I could create like a web app that just outputs randomized NPC location files that you can then just drag and drop it into your game folder if you have OpenRSC set up already. And that's okay, but it's not that nice because people still need to set up their own OpenRSC server and such to be able to do that. Although it's helpful, I take away the running the program side of things. But I'd have to pay for hosting on that, and it's such a niche thing that like, is it really worth it? I don't think so, not really. I've thought about hosting a multiplayer server as well, but I'd have to it's not something I've done before, and I don't know. A few people say they'd be interested in it, but is that enough for me to like have my Raspberry Pi running it 24/7? And I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how maybe it gains in popularity. Maybe there are people better suited to running a multiplayer server for this than I am. I think I should be open. This is not. I don't own this idea. Somebody, at least Beast Fable, came up with this idea before I did, and I suspect that because of the great work that the guys at OpenRSC did in terms of making this stuff available, it seems to me like they made a conscious effort to bring this stuff out into the JSON files to make it accessible to modders, essentially. Because we've also got things like NPC defs, so the item definitions, NPC definitions, the locations. We've looked at NPC locs. We've got ground item spawns, boundary locs, which I think is literally the walls of castles and stuff. We've got scenery locations, which is all the bushes, skill scenery locations, scenery loc harvesting. This is like where a rune rocks. It's all in here, so them doing the good work on making this like easily available to anyone who can manipulate JSON really kind of lays the groundwork. So I guess what I'm saying is I feel like I am able to get this working, but I might not be the best person to kind of bring this to maturity. If no one else wants to do it and there's a big appetite for it, then maybe I will pick up that mantle, but we'll see. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting and useful, and thanks for watching. If you haven't checked out the adventure series that I'm doing, exploring this randomized world where the King Black Dragon is running Lumbridge, then feel free to check out my other videos. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you around.